flip your worksheet over. You're on the back. If you drew on the back yesterday, you need to get yourself a piece of printer paper. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to fold your paper in half.
Give me a second.
You're all right. And then I want you to open it. And then I want you to fold it in half the other way. And then I want you to open it back up. So you're making quadrants. And then if some of you are still like, open it to the back so you have a blank sheet of paper in front of you. Okay, then you're gonna label the top left quadrant cube. Then you're gonna label the top right quadrant cylinder. Bottom left is going to be cone. And bottom right is gonna be sphere. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see a little better.
This is just telling me that I need to be in the car.
Okay. Okay. If you didn't grab a ruler, you're gonna need one of those. So to start with the cube, we start with the square. So we're gonna use our ruler to draw a square. And when you guys start drawing, when you're drawing an outline, draw lightly. Okay, really light. I'm gonna draw dark so you can see it. I'm gonna snug my cube kind of up here over to the left-hand side a little bit. So you don't have to draw, excuse me, you don't have to draw very large. So the deal with the cube is you want all of your sides to be nice and straight and the same length and not angled. Which a lot of times when you're freehanding with a ruler, that's easier said than done. Okay, so far I haven't been doing too bad. Okay, there we go. Got the square. Once you're finished with your square, we're going to use that perspective, the 1-point perspective that we learned yesterday, and we're going to put our dot to the right and above. Once I have that dot in, then I'm going to line my ruler up at each of these corners to the middle of the dot, and I'm going to draw the line. So I'm going to start with my top left corner. So I'm going to line my ruler up there, and then I'm going to shift my ruler to where it is going to intersect the middle of that dot, and then I'm going to draw my line. So just like that. Okay, then I'm going to go to my top right corner, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, then the bottom right corner, same thing again. Okay, so we use that 1-point perspective technique that we learned yesterday. Then to finish off the cube, we just need a vertical and we need a horizontal, okay? So you kind of pick and choose where you want to go. Try to make it at least a cube. If you turn it into a rectangle, that's okay. So I've got my vertical right there, and then at the top of that vertical, I'm going to go across with the horizontal, and I need to make sure that this is nice and straight as well. I'm going to draw that line across. Okay? And then it's time to get rid of all of my guidelines. So I get rid of that point, and I get rid of these lines back here. Here we go. All right, now I need to give my cube something to sit on as far as like a tabletop surface. So I'm gonna line my ruler up in a horizontal fashion. I'm just gonna draw a line going out from the left and a line going out from the right. Okay, before we can go any further, we have to establish our light source because that determines your cast shadows. So for this one, our light source is going to be coming straight in from the left-hand side. No angles, which means then our cast shadow is going to come straight out from our cube. So what we're going to do is we're going to start down here at the bottom right corner. We're going to line our ruler up straight horizontally, and we're going to draw a line going straight out. Okay? Then you're going to do the same thing off of this corner up here. All right? This back line should be just a hair longer than this line here, and we're going to cap off that cast shadow with just a slight diagonal, and it's, there we go, okay? All right, so if our light source is coming in from the left-hand side, we need to start kind of figuring out what type of value are we putting in there and figuring out what numbers, okay? So on our sphere, we practiced shading that yesterday, right? We finished that up, okay? Did we put in one solid, like just one value, or did we put a gradual fade in? We did a gradual fade. Can anybody tell me or give me a guess on why we use the fade instead of just one value in there? So it looks smooth, yeah. And what else? Don't know?
Well, I got it.
What do you think?
Because the light isn't as bright as it is on all the objects. The light starts to fade.
Yes. Okay, and so let me expand on that. That is correct. So the light fades around, and that's because the sphere it's curved, right? So the light cannot continue curving around that form. So that's why it hits it on the sphere. We have a bright highlight, and then as the sphere curves and disappears away from the light, it gets darker. So does that make sense? So when you have a curved form, you have a fade. Everybody following me? Okay. If it is not curved and it's flat, you do not have a fade. It's just one flat value. So what are we going to do with our cube? Do we have a fade or do we have flat values? Flat. We got flat because there's no curves. Okay, so now we need to figure out what side is our lightest, what side is our medium, and then what side is our dark, okay? So if our light is coming in directly from the left, can we even see our brightest highlight side? No, it's gone. It's back behind here somewhere. But we're still gonna have a light side. That's gonna be more of like a 3 when we start off. So I want you guys to just kind of take a guess, and then we'll see, there's a little cheat sheet. You guys think it's gonna be the top, the front, or the side is gonna be the lightest? I think I got an answer for everyone. Okay, let's show of hands. Raise your hand if you think top. Okay. Raise your hand if you think front. Okay, raise your hand if you think side. Okay, I have most hands on the side, so I'm just gonna label that for right now, and we'll check it out. Okay, medium. Let's go to our medium side. Do you guys think top or front? Huh? You think top? Other people think that? Okay, how many of you raise your hand on top? Okay, raise your hand for front. Okay, I've got a few more front, so front wins on that one. So then that would mean that you guys, by process of elimination, this would be your darkest. Okay, let's go to our cheat sheet here. Just as we go. Okay, so guys, take a look here. Where did we go wrong? Yeah. So you guys, the light is coming in from this side, the left-hand side, and the majority of you then said this side is our lightest. But doesn't the body of the cube block out most of that light? Yeah. So does everybody see that now? Oh, yeah. Haha, sorry. Here. So on ours, if the light's coming in from this side, the cube is blocking most of that light. So would this work? Does that work? Okay. If the light was coming in from this, then oh boy, yeah. Okay. So actually, what you guys thought was the light side for the majority is actually the dark side. And if we switch back here, everybody got, the majority said medium was the front, and that's right. And then the top, that's going to be our lightest, because it's kind of technically-ish the closest. Okay? All right, so let's go, let's get some shading done here. On this cast shadow, we're going to fill that in with a number 10. Hey, Lindsay, bring your paper up here real quick. Okay, guys, go ahead and just fill this in as dark as you can. Let me see. Okay. All right, guys, I'm just going to take a quick break here really fast. Okay, now you're caught up. Fill this in as dark as you can. Okay? Okay. All right, guys, so make sure that you're using quite a bit of pressure on there. All right, now let's go to our lightest side. Now remember, we can't see our actual highlights, so it's going to be a little darker than a 1 or a 2. So I would just say go ahead and go in with a 3. If you don't know what that is off the top of your head, you can flip your worksheet over, see what kind of value you put down for a 3, and then just try to get it to match as close as you can. Okay, then the medium side, that's going to be kind of right in the middle, so about a 5. Okay, so it might take me just a little bit to kind of fill that in. My top is too dark, so I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to take some of that out. You may not have to do that. Okay, and then I'm also going to make sure that this face here is about a 5. So it needs to be kind of right in the middle. Okay, then that dark side, It's got to be darker than both of these faces, but lighter than your cast shadow. So I'm going to quickly do that, and I'm aiming for about a 7 or an 8. Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick there, let you guys catch up. It's not the same though, so we'll just have to do, it's either that or assist and but from here on out, we should be all right. Okay, guys, no, don't blend yet. We're gonna do that at the end. So we're gonna do a little bit of background work and we're gonna do a little foreground work. And I'm gonna be going a little faster, okay? So for the background, I'm gonna kind of turn this a little bit because it's easier for me to color in that way. Very lightly, I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna put in just a really light value in my background, and then as I move away from the cube, I'll make it go lighter and lighter. Okay, so the top of my cube is still really dark, and I'm gonna have to work at kind of lightening that up. So what I do for background is I put in just kind of like a nice general, just light value to start. And then for your values to work correctly, you have to have a dark next to a light. So what I need to do with my background over here is I need to kind of darken it up and then let it fade out. So that I can see a significant difference between where my cube is and where the background is. Okay, so I'm gonna make it fairly dark over here. I'm just kind of adding that value in and letting it fade out. So it's kind of like what we did on our contour stuff. So those of you that were kind of struggling with that, well, you're hitting it again. So you're just kind of practicing on doing your fades there. Okay, now the problem is on this right-hand side over here, it's already dark over there. So I've got to keep my background lighter when it's next to a dark. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to try and smooth this area out and then just keep it real nice and light over on this side. Okay, so kind of something like that. Okay, tabletop, it's gonna be nice and light. So just barely brushing the surface. Okay. All right. Now I know I'm kind of moving quickly through this. If I'm moving too quickly for you, this demonstration, this exact one, will be in Canvas for you, okay? So no worries if I get ahead of you and you're falling behind. You can come back to that video and you can watch it as many times as your heart desires to get all of the info in there, okay? All right, so now the last thing we're gonna do to finish this up is we're gonna take our tortillon, and now we're gonna blend everything. So be kind to your tortillon, because they're kind of fragile. So I like to start in the cast shadow first, then I go from like dark to light, kind of. And then so remember that when you use your tortillon, it will kind of make things a little darker. So probably use a little less pressure on it than you think you really need. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my background here, and I'm going to start smoothing that out before I do the light side of my cube. I kind of have to position my hand a little weird to get into all the nooks and crannies there. Okay, and then I'll do the lightest face. Got to be really gentle with that. I already made it too dark to begin with earlier. And then I'll do kind of the tabletop, and that'll be it. Okay, so I want to talk about this really quick. So the reason why you guys draw lightly to start off is so you don't have any outlines. Okay, so the problem with mine, because I drew dark, you guys can still see my outlines like here and like my tabletop on this side. So with value, your ultimate goal is you don't have any more outlines anymore. So you have a light value next to a dark value, and that's what makes your edges and your lines. Does everybody kind of get that? Okay, let's move on. Let's bust the cylinder out. So we are going to draw out our cylinder, and it's going to be I'm going to snug it kind of closer to the right. And you start that by drawing a capital letter I. So I'm going to start with my vertical line first. You do not have to make these super big, okay? I mean, you can if you want. It just takes you longer to shade, but you're more than welcome to. Okay. All right, Lindsay, this is where you can switch over to that other piece of paper, because it's got one there for you. So you got to find the cylinder. Okay. On the cylinder, we have ellipses, so one on the bottom and one on the top. You guys have to just kind of freehand this, so just try and get your half circles, about half of it above, half of it below, and just try to get it as even as you're possibly able to. Okay, then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to draw on your straight side on the left and straight side on the right. Then you're going to get your horizon line in there, your tabletop. Then you're going to erase out your capital letter I. Again, that's why it's important for you guys to draw light, because you guys are you're going to be able to see all my guidelines. Okay, I want to see my cylinder from the top, and I want to make it solid. So that means that I have to take out this top part of my ellipse on the bottom ellipse. So like that. Again, I know you guys can see my guidelines. That's the bummer about drawing too dark. Okay, light source on this one, we're gonna come in at an angle. So we're coming in from the right hand side, which means that our shadow, our cast shadow, is gonna follow that same path. So we're gonna go down here to this bottom left-hand corner. We're gonna kind of line our ruler up according to how I set that light source. And we're gonna draw a line. Okay? Then I wanna do the same thing on the other side, and I wanna try to make sure that these two are parallel. Like that. And then want to cap it off there with a straight line going across. Some people think that it would be curved, not necessarily. So you can just make a straight up there, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the light physics with the cylinder. A cylinder is flat yet curved at the same time. Okay, so let's address the top. Are we gonna have a fade on the top, or are we gonna have a flat value on the top? What do you guys think? Yeah, it's gonna be a flat value, because even though the top of a cylinder is circle, it's still flat, like a cube. It's not curved, not the top or the bottom. So let's go ahead and put like a really light value in there, like a 2. Okay, if my light source is coming in from the right-hand side, which side of my cylinder is going to be the lightest part or the highlighted part? Is it going to be the right-hand side, or is it going to be the left-hand side? It's going to be on the right. So we'll write in an H for highlight. And then on the left-hand side, S for shadow. We're just kind of making some notes here. And then let's go ahead and go into that cast shadow and fill that in with a 10, okay? So cast shadow, you guys always know that's going to be your darkest. So just go ahead and fill that puppy in there. All right, so shading in to make sure that we're at a 10. All right, so get that filled in as much as possible, okay? All right, now, like I said, the cylinder's tricky because it's like straight but curved at the same time. So let me show you what that's gonna mean. So I'm gonna take out the S and the H. So my shadows are gonna start over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to have a fade because we're showing a curve. I like to do kind of a little section at a time. So everybody just kind of watch, and then you can go from there. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start at like, a 6 or a 7, and then I'm just going to bring my pencil across to the right-hand side. As I get closer and closer to the right-hand side, I'm going to lessen my pressure more and more and more until I'm at a 0. Okay, so I'll do it again. I'm going to try hard not to have too much overlap there. So then I need to kind of match what I did first. So now I'm going to start kind of lightening it up until on the right hand side I fade out to a 0. And do this again. Notice that I'm also shading in vertically. Okay, so I'm going to lighten up more and more until it's a 0. And I'm going to finish off this last little section up here at the top. Okay, once I kind of put in like a set value, I just go back on top and just strengthen it up a little bit. So I'm doing the same thing, but I'm making my dark just a little darker, and I'm trying to kind of shade in more area at one time instead of doing those 4 like little sections. Okay, just like that. Everybody doing okay? All right, let's go ahead and put a flat value in our background, and then we'll start figuring out how we need to change that up. So we're going to take our pencil and we're going to really lightly put in some value in the background. And instead of playing with our eraser on our ruler, can we do what we're supposed to be doing? Thank you. Okay, so just a really light, flat value back here. It is probably pretty close to, darn it. Thank you. It's probably going to be pretty darn close to the value that we have on the top there of the cylinder. So we're going to have to come in and make some changes. Okay. How have I been saying that value works? You have to have a light next to a dark. So over here on this right hand side, we have a light next to a light. So that won't work. So we need to darken our background over in this area. Okay? So I'm going to come back in with my pencil, and I'm going to try to match the darkness of my outlines that I've got going on here so I can make them disappear. And so my background's going to end up getting quite a bit darker on this side. Okay, and as it moves away from the cylinder, it can get lighter and lighter. So now I'm going to just kind of start bringing, I don't have to have it as dark as I did down here, but I want to bring some of that darkness up and around, and then like I said, as I move away, I can let it fade more and more. I'm going to angle my paper so that it's easier for me to get along this top edge. And then as I move more and more to the left-hand side, I can let it kind of lighten it up. So I don't want like this really small outline that I can see coming out from my cylinder. I want a nice fade. Some of you kind of struggled with that on your contour line project, and so now you're having to kind of revisit that again. Okay, so just going around my cylinder, making sure that I get the outlines gotten rid of, and then I can bump up my value just a tiny bit on this left-hand side, but not by a whole lot. Okay, so something like that. You kind of want to fade it out nice and neat. All right, now let's get our tabletop surface. Again, let's just make that pretty light. So go with like a 2 or a 1. Oops. I colored in my cylinder. I wasn't even paying attention. So guys, pay attention to what you're doing or you make mistakes. Whoops. All right. Now let's start blending everything together, and I think that that will get us good for the day. Okay, start with your cast shadow. So grab your tortillon and blend with your cast shadow. Blend into your cast shadow. Blend with your tortillon. My brain is starting to shut off. Okay, so I'm going to fill this in so you don't have to use a ton of pressure on that tortillon, and use it on its side, not on its point, or you'll ruin it. Okay, then I'm going to work my background. Excuse me. Okay, so just gonna start blending this all out. So I want you guys to get this finished up today before you pack up, hopefully. We should be able to have plenty of time. Okay, now I'm gonna come into my cylinder and I'm gonna start blending that out, and I'm probably going to have to come back in with an eraser. Not probably, I am going to have to come back in with an eraser on the right hand side to lighten that up. Okay, so the reason that we blend is so that we don't see any more of that like paper texture. We're getting our graphite nice and smooth. Okay. Huh?
Can't you also use your finger?
You could, but your fingers have oils on them, and so it's not really recommended to do that. Okay, so I've got that part of the cylinder completed, and I've got it blended out. If you guys got too dark on this right-hand side, you need to take your eraser and very gently, you need to take some of that graphite out. So that you have a nice highlight over there on that side. Okay guys, so again, issues with dark outlines. Here's my issue. I can really see that outline of that cylinder there. So really what I should do is on my tabletop, I should come in and I should bump up the value there. I still have it lighter than the background, but I should have it match that side, that outline that I had there to get rid of it. So now that I've done that, it's more correct. So that's going to be kind of something that I'll be expecting from you guys, is no more outlines when we're doing shading and things like that. We're just slowly going to get away from them. So you need to practice that more and more if you are struggling. Okay, I think that's it for today, guys. We'll pick back up here tomorrow.